I would take an occasional art class here and there in junior high and high school, but then it wasn't until I got to college that I discovered ceramics and ended up getting a Bachelor of Fine Arts in ceramics. Never took a painting class, not too sure why, but yeah, I really like the textural hands-on application of ceramics. I tried building a career as an artist at galleries, and with limited success. I was young. So I went to some antique stores in San Francisco in the Bay Area and just started talking to people, and they would hire me for small jobs, restoring furniture, doing an occasional painting for the antique store. And one thing led to another. I started getting private clients. You know, if you see my website, it's really everything under the sun. It's kind of whatever the client wants. So yeah, there's a zodiac sky ceiling. There's a red chinoiserie room, bedroom. I mean, innumerable murals. I have a job coming up soon. I'm doing a historical timeline for the Palm Desert Historical Society. So yeah, that's my professional career. And as much as I love it, and as much as I get into what I do for these clients, it's really the desert and the landscape paintings that I'm most passionate about. I mean, I'm basically self-taught when it comes to oil painting. My father passed away. He had dabbled a little bit with landscape painting in his earlier years. And so I found, when I was clearing out their house, I found a box of oil paints. And it just sat around kind of staring at me, and I eventually decided to give it a go. Went out and bought some canvases, thought, I love landscapes, I love landscape painting, see what I could do. I decided to start big. I thought oils was going to be a lot easier. I make my living as a professional artist. I work in acrylics and house paints because I do murals. So I thought, well, I'll just buy large canvases. Oil painting will be really easy. Big surprise, it was very difficult, a real challenge. But yeah, this is my first attempt. And I worked quite a bit on it, played with it, and I learned a lot. And there's a really big difference between acrylics and working with oils. There's the obvious dry time. Acrylics is a more immediate. Oils just take more time, more practice. But the thing I ended up really appreciating and loving about the oil paints is you could play. I could play with the colors. I could, and if I made a mistake, if you make a mistake with acrylics or watercolors, you're just kind of stuck with it. But with the oils, you can paint over it, or surprise, I really like the way the pink looks or the purple looks. Who would have thought? And so I could, just keep working with it. But my goal here was to do much more gestural, kind of looser work, where I could play with the brush strokes, play with the colors, and get less focused in the details. And that's why I chose to work in the bigger sizes, initially at least. I think part of what drew me to the oils as well was I have this background in ceramics, so obviously that's very textural. And with the oils, I could just keep building up. There's a couple here that I painted with a palette knife. And then, yeah, with the brush, I would just squeeze half the tube onto the tray and just glob it onto my brush and just really build it up. I mean, you can see, if you look at them at an angle, you can see that there's quite a bit of texture and depth to them. It's more than just the color on the canvas. It's actually the texture becomes a part of the painting too. The shadow that the paints make, the way the light quality bounces off the chunkiness of the oil paints. I'm particularly drawn to John Hilton and Agnes Pelton. They're both Southern California desert landscape artists from the early 20th century. And what I liked about their work is they're really at that intersection between traditional landscape painting and then modern art. So what I hope to achieve is a traditional landscape with modern sensibility. And they both have that. They both played with colors. They used colors that you typically wouldn't expect to see in nature. They used techniques that you don't find in prior painting styles. John Hilton in particular uses really thick layers of paint, and then he'll go in and or he'd go in and take a palette knife and scratch through to the other colors underneath, and all that textural, crunchy stuff I just really like. I really admire plein air painters, people who are able to sit at a location and bust out a painting. But and maybe I'll try that in the future, but right now I spend a lot of time hiking. I always bring my sketchbooks with me, and I'll do a lot of sketching on sites, take some photos. Occasionally I'll bring my watercolors, and I think there's a couple here that I painted on site with watercolors. And I just end up amassing imagery back in my studio and finding what really resonates with me. And I'll do a painting in my workshop, often loosely based on the hikes I've been to and the sketches I've done. So they are specific locations, but they're not photo perfect. So with these paintings, I mean, not only was I experimenting with oil paints, which was a new technique to me, and landscape painting was also new to me too. I wanted to, instead of creating a static image of a tree, of a mountain, I wanted to acknowledge and try and portray the vibrancy of the space, the wind, the sand blowing, the drama of the setting sun. So playing with shadows and the light seemed to be a really good access point to capture that. I mean, even though these have a fantastical quality to them regarding the color, that's really what I see when I go out there. Those bright pinks and purples and neon yellows. You sit and look long enough, and that's what you see. I mean, even here in Ridgecrest, being in the parking lot last night, I mean, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful, that setting sun. I got up this morning at the crack of dawn and watched the sun come up. All the colors of the rainbow are really there. I feel like the more time I spend in a space, in a locale here in the desert, and stare at the cliffs, stare at the skies, stare at the sand, you really do see a variety of colors. It's not just browns and beiges. You start to see the blues, the yellows, things glow, and of course the morning and setting sun really can change the tone and vibrancy. And so with some of my paintings, I'll introduce colors that you don't typically expect to see in this kind of environment, but I add them in, either as an accent or just something to give a playful atmosphere to the painting. I really hope with my paintings that people are able to gain if they don't already have an appreciation of the desert, I hope they can view my paintings and recognize that the dramatic lighting and the colors really do exist out there. It's just a matter of paying attention.